Here we go.
Too many Cheetos.
Into Alan Wake 2. So, um, something you just brought up was the kind of weird kind of aspects of the Alan Wake lore in general, and I just forgot where I was going to go with that. Darn it. I don't know.
Ja.
Anyways, this is something I was really excited to talk about Phoenix with because I didn't even know he was talking or playing Alan Wake 2 at the moment. Um, I thought you said you were going to wait, or you said I was only going to get Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2, but I guess you couldn't wait.
Well, I got through Spider-Man pretty quick, and honestly, I got through Wonder really fast. We'll talk about that in a few
What
minutes.
is
So,
Wonder? I've heard
I
it's
don't
like
know. How
seven,
was
8 hours, right? It's like very short.
It's not a lot. I mean, I think depending on your experience, I don't want to sidetrack us, but no, it's not real
No,
long.
you're fine.
But anyway, yeah, I had a little bit of extra time. I was, intrigued by Alan Wake, so it was still Halloween spooky time. So like, yeah, let me give it a shot.
Um, so yeah, so you said you're almost at about where I'm at, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of hopped on the tail end of your last stream because I just wanted to gauge like how far away you were. I think you're maybe an hour and a half ahead of me. I said I just got to the point. Once again, spoilers to a certain extent. I mean, I don't think we're going to go into a lot of narrative stuff, but if you're wanting to play Alan Wake and you don't want to know anything, then skip this or come back in a few minutes. I got to the point right after you play Saga, then you go play as Alan Wake, and then I'm back as Saga now. So I just got back to Bright Falls real world area, and finished up Alan's first whole New York
Okay.
extravaganza. So, um, first thing I want to ask you is, is this kind of meeting your expectations so far? Because I know you're really hyped about this game. So has it
I
let you down at all? Are you happy with where it's going?
I am totally loving this game so far. We will definitely talk about it when we get into our what is it, the game of the year talk. But so far, this is again, it's more of a biased take, but this is everything I love in some of my favorite like narrative driven games. Like I feel like if you go back and you look at some of the other titles like BioShock, Dead Space, the original Alan Wake, this is kind of like everything I like in my favorite type of games. Like I like spooky, I like kind of weird, I like some humor mixed in, I like kind of not knowing what's really happening, and I don't just like not knowing, but I like figuring it out, which if you like figuring it out and more sleuthing detective work, this game has some form of like it's not like super in-depth detective work. It's not LA noir, but it has a form of right. I mean, I don't think you would agree that it's not like incredibly
I
in-depth, but I enjoy like that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to go into this yet. There are certain mechanics I am not a big fan of, that being
Really.
one of them.
Mm.
But I don't want to dig in too deep. I mean, I want you to kind of give me your full take on, the game, your pros and cons real quick before I change your opinion completely. So,
Really. I'm loving just about everything about it. Like I love the weird like there's so many references and so many Alan Wake and Control things and you're getting close to some stuff that's like that's I don't know, it's going to be cool for you. But
okay.
I don't know, like almost everything you could want if you loved Control or Alan Wake has kind of been in here so far. Again, I like kind of they're very much going and as you were talking about the aspect of the detective work that you don't like. The thing that's kind of cool about this game is they give you because you're playing as almost two characters. You're playing as Alan Wake himself, who's trying to get out of the dark place, and he on the outside is working or attempting to work with this Saga girl or this detective, and they almost play two. I don't want to say two completely different fashions, but they both they both have two like whenever you play a Saga, it feels as though you're more weaponly equipped to take on the enemies, and then when you play as Alan, you feel less equipped because he only has the light sources, and she
Yeah, I
always
feel like
feels like she
Alan's
has
a
the
little
better
more
weapons.
reactive.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when it comes to like the combat, like you only fight out of kind of necessity. That's not kind of your focus. But when you're playing a Saga, I mean, it's not your primary focus, but I think you're anticipating combat a little more and you're kind of preparing for the encounters a little bit more. So it's a little more proactive as opposed to reactive.
Mhm. Oh, and I just thought about my thing I was going to start before we hopped in. You were talking about how the game is weird and you know how that's something they lean into. I feel like this is the most like European feeling game Remedy has made. Like there are so many references to like Finnish or what is it? It's
Yeah, they're from
Finnish.
Finland. So yeah,
Yeah,
you got a lot of like Finnish, like
there's
several characters are
several
Finnish.
characters that are like, and they always had that sprinkled in, but like this is the first one where like they go into like Finnish lore. They're like everyone has like a
Mhm.
Finnish accent, and it's like
Well, isn't either I don't know if it's Bright Falls specifically or like a town that's nearby is wasn't it like historically in the lore like inhabited or whatnot by Finland or like what
I
was it
thought it
the
was like,
original
isn't
like
it Washington they're in? They're supposed to be
yeah, but
in.
like a certain city was like founded by I think Finnish settlers or something like that.
It
I can't remember
probably.
exactly. One of the guys when you bump into is like a little was it the station out there by the lake? You run into two guys standing by there. I don't know if you came one guy's with the SCP like a Asian guy,
Yeah.
and then you have like a the Finnish dude. He talks about his hometown, which I think is close by, that was founded by
Well,
Finnish
the guy
settlers or
next to
something
him
like
was
that.
with the FCB. He was literally with the Federal
No,
Bureau of Control.
S. Oh yeah, I said it wrong. I'm sorry. I was thinking SCP because that's what Control is based on. But yes,
Oh,
FBC.
yeah. But yeah, it's definitely weird and wacky, and I tend to like slower kind of experiences. Like I don't feel like as much as I love Dead Space can be like insanely hectic, and I
Mm.
kind of like that this one's a little more chill. Like they do a lot of things to kind of make to I don't know make you feel on edge always. I feel like the audio work here is like fantastic. Um, I don't know. I'm curious. What did I'm already curious. What about it to you is not living up?
Well, okay, let me tell you first what I think is positive about it. Because I mean, so far I am enjoying the game. I'm not negative on the game. There's a few things I haven't quite jived with me yet. I think I've pretty clearly outlined this. I'm not a big horror game guy at all. Like probably the creepiest game I played up to this point, like all the way through, were like I don't know,
BioShock.
the first BioShock, maybe, which isn't really that scary once you get kind of through the beginning of it. So I played a good amount of the first Alan Wake. And it wasn't super spooky. I don't think I actually stopped playing it because it was overly scary. I just fell off for whatever reason. But typically, I'm not a big horror guy. I
How
think
far did
Metal
you
may
get?
recall we tried to play Amnesia once, and I noped out as soon as we got to the water section. Anyways,
How far did you get
I
in the first game? I'm curious. Do you remember?
oh so long ago.
Did you
I'm
get to
gonna
the
say about
farm?
halfway mark.
Oh, so you didn't even get to the farm.
Yes. So I thought I got to the farm. Oh, it's been forever. And the problem is like I can't now remember exactly when I stopped playing versus when I watched the rest of it,
Oh,
so it
so
all
you
kind of
did
blurs
watch. Okay, you
together.
at least know what happens.
Yeah, I've seen playthroughs of it, so I know the story. But
Okay.
anyways, so this is really I'd say one of the first like I'd say true horror games because this game is definitely more horror focused than I thought it was actually
Mm-hmm.
gonna be. Like I knew Alan Wake is a scary game. This game I think really tries to be more of a horror, survival horror kind of experience than the old games did.
They announced before the game came out that they said this was Remedy's. They were saying this was Remedy's first survival horror game.
Mhm.
So it's not like they were like
So
hiding it.
So in terms of horror games and my experience with them, I've been enjoying this one. Like it definitely has me on edge a little bit. I tell you, it's interesting because this is a game that in many ways is not scary at all until it really is. Like if you look at like the individual enemies and stuff that are, attacking you, they're not that scary.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you got like smoke monsters essentially that turn into redneck
It
cultists. So
it's far more atmosphere is what is spooky about this game
it's
more
the
than
atmosphere, it's the
yeah.
psychological aspect. So as I said, it's scary, not scary, which is right about my speed. I mean, got plenty of jump scares, which I don't love jump scares, but so far these haven't been too terrible.
That's the
So I've been
only the little things that represent Mr.
the
Scratch.
flashes,
The
yeah,
flashes is Mr. Scratch. Like whenever those go, bam, like those are supposed to be Scratch nearby or Scratches
yeah.
messing with something.
They don't bother me as much. Like the jump scares that get me are the ones that you're kind of anticipating. You're waiting, you're walking in a room, and you know it's coming, but then it happens and you weren't really ready for it. But those are just literally out of nowhere. They don't get me quite the same way. But either way, I'm enjoying the horror aspect of it more so than I thought it would. I think that's been enjoyable. There have been a couple of really standout moments I thought were pretty good. I think the game looks good. I haven't, well, I was going to say I haven't had many technical
Could
issues, but I've
I
had a couple.
Can I bring up one
Hmm?
thing? Is just I almost wonder if they did say they were going to go survival horror, but I wonder if like maybe a problem with some horror games is the fact that they try and revolve their narrative or try and revolve what you're doing in the game around the stuff that's scary versus trying to create a narrative and plot first and then trying to make things spooky around it. Like I wonder if almost that's what they are doing rather than like I don't know. Maybe I don't know how game develop. Maybe teams don't do that, but like you get what I'm saying. Like I don't know.
I
It
think I
just
do. I mean, I think everything feels pretty well integrated or
balanced.
entwined. Like
Yeah,
I don't feel like it's separate. Like here's the narrative, and then the scary stuff's over here. Like I feel like it's all kind of
that's what I was
copacetic.
just saying. Is I
Um,
like is that it feels like they took both into it. They're like they don't let this them wanting to scare you get in the way of their narrative, their goal.
Sorry, lost my ear for a second. Um, so, anyways, I'm enjoying where I'm at right now in the overall experience. Things I am not overly keen on. For one, I have had a few technical issues. When I first started up the game, I don't know if you had this. You're playing on PC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm playing on Xbox Series X. As soon as I started the very first cutscene, the lip sync was
I've
atrocious.
had that happen a few
Like
times.
I know that looking into it has been a, I guess, common
Mm-hmm.
issue, but
Yeah.
it was bad. I thought I was watching like a bad Japanese dub for a minute or something weird. It was pretty distracting. And I know they've done a few patches. It's still not great. Maybe it's a little better. And then I had the game crash on me like immediately after that. So like my first like 20 minutes of the game was a little sketchy when it comes to the technical side. Luckily, the majority of it after that's been mostly fine. I'm trying to think. The other thing I really want to play this game for was the narrative. The narrative hasn't grabbed me yet. It hasn't been bad, but it hasn't gotten to the what I'd call the weird remedy stuff yet. Like it has bits of it, and I know it's coming, which is why I'm really not trying to get negative on it yet. I know it's going to get here based upon everything I've heard and just understanding what this game's supposed to be. I don't feel like I'm there yet, though. I just got little tastes,
You're
so
close.
I
I
think I
don't
need
want
that
to
hook
say
still.
you're close to some stuff.
Yeah, so I think my opinion is going to change, hopefully pretty drastically once the narrative gets me. But right now, I'm kind of going through the motions, kind of getting there. Um, the gameplay moment to moment is fine. I'll tell you what I don't like about it, well, okay, there's two things. There's a pseudo character narrative aspect, and then there's a gameplay aspect. This might just be the way this game's supposed to feel, or the way these characters are supposed to react. Saga though feels really odd to me. Very not just awkward. I mean, once again, maybe this is the way they wrote her, and I think after maybe some revelations, it'll make more sense. But like her reaction, and once again, spoilers. But when she shows up in Brightfall and the waitress recognizes her, and basically says that her daughter has drowned, and she's like, "What?" Like the reaction she had was so like just cool and kind of unnatural. Like I'm thinking if I was in that situation and some random person's like, "Hey, I know you. Didn't your daughter die last year?" I would be freaking out. So her reaction to that I thought was weird. Her reaction to the whole scenario is very accepting. Like presumably she's never been exposed to any supernatural anything in her FBI work or her cases, and all of a sudden she's dropped in this place where dead people are coming back to life and chasing her through the woods. Like she's way too easygoing about this whole
Well,
thing. Now,
see,
granted, they're go ahead.
well, I think what would be inferred or what is I think would be the reasoning behind it is there's a lot of debate up at this point whether she's really a person or not. Because
And that's
remember,
why
there's a lot of the stuff that happens in this world. Alan plays
is it
so
real? It's been written
is
into
he writes everything. So there's so many
right.
things where it's like, is this
And
person a
that's why I
real?
was trying to say,
Yeah.
like, maybe this is how she was written, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote. Like, I know there's something weird going on with her. It's very unnatural. And this is the thing about Remedy games. Sometimes you can't tell if it's a natural for the sake of being a natural or if there's some narrative aspect to it, or is it just weirdly written. So some of these characters are just kind of sitting in this weird place. Alan always sits a little weird because he's very kind of campy, over the top, over melodramatic about stuff in some ways. So he reads a little fake to me too, but I think that's just his character. It's supposed to be this over kind of eloquent, elaborate writer. So I think you just have to accept that about his character. So it's not a negative. It feels awkward, but I said that could just be waiting for the story to all kind of click and fall into
Mm-hmm.
place. The other thing I do not think I like is the whole detective mind place story plot stuff. And when I say story plot, like the plotting that you can do in Alan's mind space, I think it is way too. How do I want to say this? It's too easy. For one, because you can't get it wrong. I think, and just Metal, I know you probably haven't played it yet. I don't know if you know anything about how this is set up, but you go through the game, you collect evidence as one of the characters, the saga character we're talking about, and then halfway through you go to like your true crime not virtual, mental mind space, where like you have your own little like headquarter room where you have like the big wall with the pictures and the yarn attaching things, and you're supposed to like kind of plot out and map out the investigation.
I like it
Cool in
though. I don't
theory.
know. I think it's
It's a
cool.
cool like it's a cool visual, and what you're doing is neat in concept, but it doesn't really matter what you do. Like, so you bring up like it will put these little cue cards, being like, gotta figure out what the cultists are doing, and then you're given like 3 pictures that you took as like evidence that you were searching for while you're out on your campaign or whatever it was, and they're like, does this picture go with the cue card or does this one? You can't get it wrong. Like if you put the wrong picture on there, it's like, oh, Saga, you're stupid, don't do that, and then you can basically just guess. You can't. I wish this game would let you get it wrong and like it would lead you down a different path. Like these
Well,
don't feel like puzzles you're solving. It feels like I'm just walking through a motion and be like, oh, it needs to put this picture here, and if I get it wrong I can basically just guess.
well, you're you're
um
you're getting close to a revelation. I think that explains more about her. But I would say,
is that going to change the mechanic of what she's doing though? That's my
no, no,
issue.
it's
Like
not
I'm
going to
sure
change
the
the
narrative is going to
mechanic,
make it more
but
interesting.
they'll explain more about her in just a little bit for you.
And that's right. Like I think I'm gonna like the story in the game and the narrative once it all kind of pieces together what the characters are doing. I'm
You just
game
wish
for
she
that. But
wouldn't put
this
things together so easily. But
No, I feel like as a mechanic, okay, as the gamer, like take it out of the saga aspect. I'm the gamer now trying to investigate. You're not like you kind of said it yourself. It's not that in depth. It's not even just
mm,
being in depth. You are playing investigator at the most surface level possible. It's like feels very, I don't
I
know.
see what you're
It doesn't
saying.
feel like a worthwhile mechanic. Like if I felt like I was actually solving something, like I had to read through and guess, like, oh, where should this thing go? But if you don't put it in the right spot, the game just tells you you didn't put it in the right spot, and there's only one answer, and you literally could just trial and error guess the entire investigation.
Hmm.
So I don't like that. I think it's just overly simplified. And you can, play like if you role play as an investigator, you can try to make it more interesting. Like, oh, I'm trying to figure out where this picture goes based upon the imagery that this has, and I don't know. I feel like I'm really forcing myself to do that though, so I don't like that. The Allen parts are better, only because if you do get the wrong outcome, it at least has some kind of like visual shift. Like the way the Allen thing works is you basically rewrite the story to a certain extent with adding your own characters and elements. We're losing Metal. He ain't gonna make it. If you're not gonna make it,
What?
Metal, it's okay. You can come back later. I'm
I'm
sorry.
like,
We're dragging this on too long.
No,
Um,
I'm okay just watching him over there.
Yeah.
He's so
My point being
majestic.
is I feel like those sections they don't go as hard as they need to a certain extent. They're neat conceptually, but the gameplay elements of this game haven't hooked me yet. The combat is fine. It can be intense to a certain extent, and these mind moments are interesting, but they're not overly engaging. So the game aspect of it, I'm a little cool on. So the story is going to need to grab me relatively soon. But I'll kind of leave it there. Other than that, I mean, I say I'm open to this game. I like the Alan Wake story, like in general. I like Remedy's take on things. It does get really weird, really kooky, and they have some cool kind of mind twists. So I'm game for it.
It could just be that, like, while yes, this is my type of game and this is what I look for in a, my type of, like, I like these type of weird experiences. It could just be total bias and that I haven't played a game like I haven't played a horror game that like intrigued me this much since maybe Soma, when you told me about Soma. Soma was, and that was what, that is several years old, but I played that up like a year ago, and that was like the
Mm.
last like awesome experience where like I was totally enthralled through and through. Um, See, I want to try and find something I haven't liked so far in the game.
I'm not trying to make you dislike the game if you're having a good time with it. I mean, I do think
I
you
would.
were a little more hyped for, and you have, I think, more like Alan Wake has been one of your like favorite games for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think you were going to be a little more into some of the stuff they were doing initially. I came in a little bit cooler. Like, I enjoyed my Alan Wake experience in the past, but it wasn't like, man, Alan Wake.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I'm game for it. I'm hoping it, evolves and changes a little bit more as we go through it. We don't have to beat a dead horse here or
I,
anything,
I
but
will I will say, like, one thing I'm hoping this game. I do feel like I'm at the point where I've played enough of a couple Remedy games. I would like some more. I would like some more concrete answers on certain things, and I wonder if, like, that's just not the nature of this type of series or game, where it's like, I would like to legit know what is the dark place. I want to know what is
well, you're
going on
5 hours into this. I
yeah.
imagine you got 15 more hours for a couple of revelations. I can't imagine they're gonna, spell out every single thing because they need some carrot to drag you into the next game, whatever it may be.
I mean, I
But
hope this game
I
ends
don't
with
know.
us finally being done with Mr. Scratch. I mean, I can't imagine he. I mean, we've been dealing with him for, you know, 1.5 games now. It's like, I don't know.
We'll see.
All right, well, we went on far longer on Alan Wake 2 than I thought we would, honestly, because before we hopped on, I didn't even
I
know
know, and
Phoenix
poor
was
Metal over
playing it.
there is dying. Sorry.
Alright, I'm trying to survive here.
No, you'll be
You
all
can
right.
do it. Go get like a caffeine injection. Find a 5-hour energy. Do some jumping jacks. I don't know.
Ugh.
Right in the heart.
Stab yourself in the kneecap or something.